Welcome back, Sebastian here. So today I'm going to be doing my review for the F2 sprint race for Qatar. If you only watch F2, you don't watch my other videos, you'll probably notice that things look quite different from the last time that we had an F2 race. So new stuff that I've basically been trying to, improve the quality of things, improve the quality of the videos and stuff last, couple months or so. So yeah, let's get right into this sprint race. So Behrman started on pole position, Hajar P2. Miney starting 12th after getting a grid penalty, I think, from qualifying. So I think he was supposed to start in the top 10, but ended up starting outside of it. Behrman keeps the lead turn 1. Gerther has a bad start. He started P3 and he fell down quite far down the order and was basically running towards the bottom of the top 10 positions. Martin's really good start on the medium tires, and that tires between medium and hard would turn out to be a very pivotal factor in the race today. So Hadjo overtakes Behrman on the second lap at turn 9 actually, so a bit of an unusual overtaking place there, but Hajar was on the medium tires, Behrman on the hard, so the medium tires definitely the much better tires to be on through the first I would say eight laps or so of this race. And definitely, you could see basically when things kind of flipped around and when the hard tires became the better tire, it actually meant that you had a couple pretty interesting situations in today's race. So Villa Gomez gets spun around by Esterson. Marti then retires as well. Not sure if he even got going, but they just showed him in the pits. So yeah, unfortunate for him. Lap 5, Bortoleto, Bogdanovich both overtake Gerther for P7 and P8, and it turns out that Gerther's engine basically decided that it didn't want to exist anymore. So Gerther, white smoke basically billowing out of the back of his car as he kind of trundles around trying to decide what to do. He eventually would basically go to one of the, side roads, the gaps in the wall at the side of the track, and we would get a virtual safety car as a result of that. Lap 8, Hadro comes on the radio saying his front left tire was dead. So yeah, definitely not good, not looking good for him on those medium tires, but he was still in the lead. And again, him being in the lead and Bortoleto being towards the bottom of the points paying positions meant that, if things finished as they stood, that Hadjar would leapfrog Bortoleto into the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Good duel between Martins and Crawford. So Martins P3 also on the medium tire, struggling quite a bit as well. So you basically had allowed the front two to kind of go off into the distance, and you basically had this massive train behind Martins, who was doing his best defensive driving to keep Crawford and everyone else behind him. So yeah, you had a very, very good duel there. A couple close moments where, you could argue Martins maybe pushed Crawford off track, or maybe, moved twice in the braking zone. But for the most part, I thought that duel was very, very fair. Yeah, very close together. Lap 10, Crawford can't get past him, even though he's on the worn tires. And then, let's see, lap 16, Behrman, basically, he has gone right up to the back of Hadjar. So basically, lap 5, lap 6 or so, when Hadjar's tires were at its best, there was basically a 3-second gap between Hadjar and Behrman. And then basically from lap 8 or so, Behrman did a really good job of just kind of eating away at that gap and just kind of gradually bringing him in. So basically, lap 16 is where Behrman got within DRS of him. Lap 17, Crawford finally gets past Martins for P3, so that had basically been a duel that had been going on for over 10 laps or so. But unfortunately for Martins, his tires basically went off a cliff and he lost quite a few positions there. So lap 18, Rasher overtakes Martins for P4 at turn 1. Let's see, who's that? Bortoleto pushed off track at turn 1. Bogdanovich falls down the order, and turns out he was spun on the exit of the corner by, I believe, Miata there. So a bit of a clumsy move by Miata, and from Bogdanovich in his first race weekend in F2 has looked pretty good. So a bit unfortunate for him that he gets spun around there. Aaron then overtakes Martins for P5. So Martins basically in a span of basically a couple laps, he goes from P3 to all the way down to P6. Lap 20, Martins gets passed by Bortoleto and Miata as well. Lap 21, with a couple laps left in the race, this is a 23-lap race. Behrman overtakes Hadjar for P1 at the first corner. Antonelli and Maini make contact as well at turn 1. This is a bit of a clumsy move, I think, on multiple accounts, but basically Antonelli is trying to dive down the inside of Maini going into the turn 1. There's definitely space there to kind of, brake a little bit late. But then as soon as they get to that apex, Martins is basically crawling. Like, he's going so slowly that he's basically just in both of their ways. So Antonelli and Maini basically have no choice but to basically both drift wide. They end up tangling with each other, and then they both end up retiring from the race basically at that point. So, and that basically brings out the safety car. But before we can get to that safety car, a very pivotal moment in the race has Hadjar following Behrman, maybe following him a little bit too closely with how bad the dirty air was, according to Behrman before the race. But Hadjar basically just spins. He, following Behrman, I think, through turn 3 or turn 4, just gets a little bit too close and just spins on his own and drops down to P4. So a bit of an unfortunate moment for there. It could be, even though he only loses 2 points there, because it is a sprint, we don't know how pivotal those 2 points could be at the end of the championship, at the end of next weekend in Abu Dhabi. So unfortunate for Hadjar there, and while if he had stayed P2, it would have looked like he would have been ahead of Bortoleto after the end of the sprint with the main feature race tomorrow. As things turned out, Bortoleto stays in front of Hadjar, with Bortoleto in a much better starting position for tomorrow's feature race. So definitely advantage Bortoleto at this point. So safety car deployed because of that Antonelli and Maini crash, and we end up finishing under the safety car as well. So post-race, again, another advantage of doing this kind of several hours or almost half a day after this race has happened is you can actually see if there's been any penalties and stuff. So it turns out Miata has a 6-point grid drop and Aaron has a 2-point grid drop. So for Miata, I think it was 2 separate incidents. It was the one with Beganovic, and there was also one with Antonelli as well. Not sure where that was. It might have been opening lap. I know Antonelli lost a couple positions at the start, and I think perhaps because of the fact that we ended under a safety car, they decided to do position drops instead of time drops, because obviously if you do like a 5 or 10-second penalty under a safety car, you're just going to fall down the order, a bit like what happened to Carlos Sainz at the Australian Grand Prix a couple of years ago. So there you go. There's my review of the the feature race. No, not the feature race, the sprint race. I took a moment to think about it, and I still got it wrong. Yes, my review for the sprint race for Qatar. So just one final look at the order. Behrman, of course, takes the win in the sprint. Sprint race, Crawford P2, Versure P3, Hadjar 4th, Bortoleto 5th, Maloney 6th, Aaron 7th, 8th is Durskin, final points for him, 9th Martins, 10th Beganovic, 11th Browning, 12th Bennett, 13th Miata, 14th Escherson, 15th Mansell, 16th Cordial, 17th Villagomez, 18th Shields, and then your DNFs were Antonelli, Maini, Gerther, and Marti. One last thing to note as well, a lot of driver changes coming into this weekend as well as next weekend, with Maloney going off to make his Formula E debut. So yeah, this feel that we have is definitely very, very different from the one that we had even a couple rounds ago in Monza or in Baku. And again, it'll be interesting to see how many of those new drivers are just kind of part-time fill-ins for the end of the season, and how many of them kind of make the step up full-time to be F2 drivers next year. So there you go. There's my review of the F2 Qatar sprint race. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow, assuming I have time, for the review of both the F1, the Grand Prix, and for the sprint or the feature race for F2. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.